9:30 on the nose, by the way. I'm gonna let you know I'm back and I'm cracking down. The rules are the rules.
So that 1 week
9:30.
away.
9:30's it. We're not talking before 9:30. We're not starting late. We're starting right at 9:30.
So the 1 week away refreshed you enough that the timing was perfect.
No, I just got lucky on the timeout today. You want to know the absolute truth about
I know
that.
you got a calculator over there. You were plugging in numbers.
Yeah, that's me. Always looking to be exact. All right, it's KCIM Sports Rewind with Sports Director Jeff Blankman, Assistant Sports Director Casey Miner is going to be talking all kinds of different things going on today. We start with the Iowa quarterbacks. What's going on there, Casey? What's up?
Sullivan's hurt.
Answer for this.
It kind of sucks. I think people were upset with how he played against UCLA with the 3 turnovers, but I think if you saw him play, he gave us the best chance to win, and it sucks it happens that way. I mean, you look at Cade's numbers, and he doesn't. I'm a stats guy. You look at Cade's numbers, and they're not bad. But you look at the way he plays in games, and you're like, what are we doing? But it's going to, maybe his concussion rattled something around, and he's good to go now. I don't know.
The guy that came in,
by the way,
actually
by the way,
pretty decent, the linebacker guy or whatever.
That's optimism at its finest. There. He's hoping the concussion improved his game.
I just told him here as you were kicking on the opening music, I'm like, you guys are going to be fine with Cade.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
they'll be who they thought they were going to be.
We were winning with Cade and we were winning without Cade. So I think that Sullivan's ability to get away from a sack helped us a lot. Cade's not as mobile, so
I will say, as a Nebraska fan, I'm glad that the mobile quarterback may not play against us.
He's done for the year.
Yeah,
so.
no, I know.
I was going to say that. I mean, they got Maryland this weekend, but the Nebraska game, does that tilt the whole balance?
No.
No, not in your.
I love my Huskers, but if there's a program right now for the last 8-9 years that can find ways to lose games, it's in Lincoln.
I'm actually more worried about the Maryland game than I am the Nebraska game because Iowa has not won a Big Ten road game yet this year.
Okay.
And it's a time zone change, and so that's kind of what worries me this week.
Yep.
And so that's just my thoughts, but.
So defense ain't going to travel for him.
No, it hasn't so far.
All right.
The defense has not been.
No.
You were saying this the other day where we were going somewhere.
Yeah,
but
with all of their grad transfers, with graduates and seniors that they have back, and how good the defense was last year, that it is just not. It's not been good.
And how many of the starters were back from last year? Was it like 9 or 10 or something?
It's been 9. I think it's been 10 starters back from last year's defense, and it's not been good at all.
So what's the record now for the Hawks?
6-4.
6-4. So they're going to finish up 7-5.
7-5, 8. I'm hoping 8-4. Hopefully we get to 9 with the bowl win, but I don't know. It's going to depend on how good Caleb Johnson wants to play the last 3 or 4 games.
Huskers had a bye week, right?
No, we lost out at USC 28-20.
Oh, that's right. I did see that score.
Yeah, had a guy wide open for a touchdown that would have put us ahead late, and decided to throw it to the guy that was not open. And, yeah.
That's a cool, Raiola, give him for
I love him. He's a freshman. He's going to make mistakes, and we knew that coming in. So he'll hopefully be fine in the future. But I give Big Ten defense a lot of credit. He was tearing up people early in the year, and now that they've seen him, they've kind of figured out, and they're confusing him a little bit. And I'm hoping an off season will help him. But he's thrown more interceptions than he has touchdowns in the last 5 games. So. Yeah, and he didn't throw an interception on that one, but there's been, you can go back and look at, the stuff that people are putting out and on a lot of pass plays anymore. There's a guy wide open where there's nobody within 20 yards of him, and he's throwing into double coverage, and stuff. And that's just he's being confused by what the defenses are, the looks the defenses are giving him. So
tell you what, Iowa State righted the ship a little bit against Cincinnati, but boy, they got just throttled against Kansas. Kansas really exposed Iowa State, I think, a lot. So they've got at Utah this week and then Kansas State. Still that outside chance of making the Big 12 championship game, but they need a little help. They need BYU to lose, first of all. But there's been some surprise teams, Big 12, Colorado and Arizona State. Who'd have thought that at the beginning of the season that they were going to be contenders at the end?
Yeah, when Nebraska just absolutely throttled Colorado in week 2. I don't think anybody thought Colorado
the Buffs were done.
Yeah, and give Deion Sanders a lot of credit for what they've been able to do, him and his coaching staff. And Yeah, we can sit here as Big Ten people and say that the Big 12's not real strong, and that's the reason why they were able to kind of right the ship. But, they're in that conference, and they've been able to do what they've been able to do. So I think the injuries for Iowa State are beginning to take their toll. They're so beat up, especially at the linebacker position and having to play so many young guys. Their offense has been kind of up and down a little bit this year and inconsistent, but the defense has been really good. But I think what you're seeing now is the defense starting to maybe wear down and struggle just a little bit due to a lot of the injuries.
Yeah,
so.
You got some really young players out there and some guys that you never expected to see the field out there at times. They are getting a little bit healthier, though, as they go through the later part of the season. But it's going to be interesting to see how they do at Utah.
Right.
That game, the Utah was the pick of the beginning of the year. They just never came together for anything.
Their quarterback's been hurt all year.
Yeah.
And that hurts a lot.
Yeah, Cam Rising was the guy. If they didn't have him, they weren't going to be. I will say that Alan Hollis just texted me and said that our wide receiver got held on the final play of the game. There was a clear pass interference that didn't get called. There was another one earlier in the game, too. Nebraska fans, we're just used to getting robbed by Big Ten officials. So, it's pathetic. I mean, Matt Rule came out earlier this year and says, I am tired of getting a call on Monday morning from the Big Ten headquarters saying, we missed this call and 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 we're sorry. He goes, I'm tired of sorry. He says, just get it right.
Do better next time.
Do better.
Or change the replay rules to be able to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it hasn't happened. It was the game before the USC game, UCLA, there was 5 plays that were just horrendously called against Nebraska in that game. And I'm sure if you're UCLA, you're going to find some too. And I'm not blaming the officials for us losing games. We're finding ways to lose games. But, man, Big Ten officiating is awful. I know Big 12 officiating a few years ago was getting ripped on for being awful. I think they all transferred over to the Big Ten. It's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous.
Did you guys see the news where Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, came out and says they're going to start putting football and basketball games on TNT and TBS next year because they lost the NBA contract. They're moving over to the ESPN. So now some of those games that were going to be on ESPN Plus are now going to be on like TNT and TBS. So that's a great move for the Big 12.
I saw that some of the first round of the college football playoff games this year are going to be on TNT too. So it must be a way that must be just the direction that college football's starting to take. So I don't know.
I'm okay with it.
I foresee them bidding individually on the Big 12 basketball rights. I could see TNT and TBS just bidding on that in the future.
Yeah, I think they should. The only thing I'm going to ask, and I know it won't happen, and they've already got a new contract with a different network, but can we keep inside the NBA those guys doing the college football games? Because I think it would be fun to listen to Barkley and Shaq and those guys talk about college football.
Why not?
I know there's not a lot of NBA fans in this area and stuff because the style and everything, man, but if you don't watch Inside the NBA and really enjoy listening to Chuck and Shaq and Kenny Smith and those guys, that show is it's a riot.
They are going to continue that show on ESPN. It's not going to be a regular show, I don't think, but they are going to be bringing that back and keeping those guys together. But speaking of basketball, Maui Invitational is next week. Have you seen the lineup for this for Iowa State?
It's crazy.
Is it crazy?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Iowa State's number 5. They take on number 4 Auburn.
Okay.
Waiting in the wings is probably North Carolina at number 10.
I was going to say top 10.
Top half of the bracket has UConn and Michigan State in it.
Wow.
So, it's just a loaded thing. Too bad the games are all going to happen like at 11 o'clock at night.
But, that's what I love about these early conference, or not early conference tournament, these early season tournaments. I remember the Anchorage tournament years ago and stuff that they were loaded with big-time opponents, and I think that's awesome. And it's one of the things that I love about the sport of basketball, where football doesn't do it. You get all these cupcakes in the non-conference. Basketball, you can go out and play whoever, and it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's not going to hurt you. As far as getting
your record. You put up 10 wins against nobodies.
Yep. So, but it's nice to be able to see big time challenges and stuff. So it's kind of like what volleyball's done.
And I love it. It's day after day after day, too. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, man. You play straight through that time, and you get quality opponents every single time.
We may not broadcast any basketball next week just so we can watch it. Kidding, folks.
So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Pro basketball, man, got to feel for Nick Nurse.
You do.
The Sixers are just just horrendous right now. 2-10.
We were talking
injuries taking their toll on everything, and you don't know who's going to be in the lineup from night to night.
It's not Nick's fault what's going on there. They pitched their tent around Joel Embiid, several years ago as their franchise guy, and he can't stay healthy. And I'm not trying to be hard on Joel. It's just it's a fact. He's hurt all the time, and when the guy that you're paying the big bucks to, that is supposed to be the leader, is never out on the floor, I don't care how good of a coach you are, how great of a coach you are. When you, in the NBA, you need a superstar to be able to be successful. And if your superstar sitting in the locker room or on the end of the bench in street clothes 99% of the time, it's hard to win ball games.
And I don't watch much NBA, but if I believe correctly, Paul George was out at one point this year.
Yep. Yeah.
Tyrese Maxey was hurt too. So, I mean, you're three.
Paul George is another guy that hasn't really stayed healthy since that big incident with Indiana years ago.
Yeah, you're three big guys that you pay the money to score the basketball have not all been on the court at the same time together, or all of them not at the court at all. It's kind of hurt you.
Yeah, Nick knows a heck of a lot about NBA offense.
Yes.
When you don't have those three big guys together, I mean, you just throw your plan out the window and say, hey, who can make a basket?
Yeah, who can score for me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're struggling right now at 2-10.
Speaking of NBA stuff, just saw this. Former Iowa State Cyclone George Niang. I know we're only in 2024, but he has the most wins out of any NBA player in the 202020 decade. So
is that
George
right?
Niang leads the NBA as the player with the most. Yes, yes, and he's not by any means any kind of a star or superstar.
No, he's a role player.
He's a role player, but he provides
5-10 minutes maybe a game, and he's going to give you a couple buckets here and there, and a good 3-point shooter. But he just seems to be on those teams, and he's on the Cavaliers, who came out of nowhere this year. I mean, they have been unbelievable.
They have. Good for them and stuff. So switching over to college women, I know KC was frustrated yesterday because the
2 straight weeks the Iowa women are ranked. Oh, my goodness.
2 straight weeks, what?
2 straight weeks the Iowa women are sitting at 26 and aren't ranked.
Oh.
And they are undefeated and have looked really good.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know.
They get Kansas tomorrow.
Yeah,
if they win that Kansas game, more than likely they'll jump into the poll. But the thing I had brought up to you is only one team had jumped into the rankings that wasn't ranked or
whatever. But there's still some teams that probably have lost that probably should have dropped out. But
yeah.
All right, how about a little pro football here? What's more surprising for you, the fact that the Lions are this good or that the Cowboys are this bad?
Cowboys.
Yeah.
They have fallen and fallen hard.
Their defense is terrible, on a regular basis.
They're getting lit up by everybody.
They are, yeah. And it should have been worse last night against Houston. Kudos to the Cowboys for keeping that as close as what they did, because Houston was kind of tearing them up early and had a chance. You look at that, first play of the game they score, and that gets called back. Then they get another penalty on that drive, and they're still able to score a touchdown on that drive with a big play.
I think what's really hurt the Cowboys on offense is no running game.
Right.
They can't run the football to save their lives. Yeah. And I have a family member that's close to me that lives with me that shares the same last name as me, that's 5 years younger than me. Not going to point out names. That is a very big Cowboys fan, and he cusses out Jerry Jones all the time for not drafting a running back last year in the draft and not signing a running back and trying to revive Ezekiel Elliott's career. And it's not. I mean, he's not even he's not even the starting running back right now.
Well, and he makes Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback. What was that about? I don't get that at all.
Yeah, I think Dak Prescott would play good if they had a running game.
I agree.
What defenses are doing it, they're just sitting back and daring you to run the football, and you can't even do it on a 3-man front.
Right.
It's bad. There's no passing lanes for CD to get open. He's frustrated, and it's just been bad this season. It's been bad management and bad ownership, I think, so far this season for the Cowboys.
Even their stadium's falling apart.
Yeah.
A big old chunk of metal fell off the roof.
Yeah, and then you got punt returners that play for the Cowboys complaining about, and receivers complaining about the sun shining in and no curtains to be able to block the sunshine and all that.
I get that, but both teams have to deal with it.
So, absolutely. And it's been that way since they built the stadium. I remember going down to the Big 12 championship game years ago and stuff when Nebraska was playing Oklahoma, and when you looked one direction, that's all you saw was the sunshine. But you mentioned
I'm
Detroit.
surprised the NFL doesn't step in and say, "Hey, do something about that."
But and maybe they will now that there's all of the argument.
I think the NFL doesn't do anything because both teams have to deal with it. It's if you look at it, it's not a fair advantage either way. Like one team's not taking the advantage over the sunshine being shined, and they like, you know what I mean. It's both teams are having to deal with it, so it's not like a plus advantage for one side of the team, one team or the other.
So it came out the other day. The Lions are the Super Bowl favorite now in the NFL power rankings. Lions, Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, Steelers.
Okay,
those are the top 5. Trivia question of the week has to do with the NFL. There are 4 teams that have never appeared in the Super Bowl. Detroit is one of them.
Yep.
So name the other 3 that have never been in a Super Bowl.
Jacksonville?
Jacksonville is correct. That is one. Yeah, the Browns are another one. They did actually in the 50s and in the 60s. They were winning championships, but before it was called the Super Bowl. Same thing with Detroit.
Okay, trying to think here.
There's 2 other teams out there.
2 others?
Well, no, I'm sorry. You got Jacksonville and you got Cleveland, and we named Detroit. One other team. It's in the same division as Jacksonville.
Houston?
Houston Texans. There you go.
Because they didn't ever make it as the Oilers either. I know it's different franchises.
Tennessee made it. But
yeah.
they're not an active NFL. I should have said active NFL teams there.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a trivia question. I know you guys last week did some top 10 basketball players around the area.
Yeah,
top
just
10
kind
teams.
of previewed the basketball season's coming up, and we got lists for wrestling and kind of swimming coming up. So just kind of get everybody ready for this spring sports season. Well, I'm way ahead of myself. The winter sports season that's coming up in a week.
Feeling like the spring with the amount of teams we have to cover this winter. Yes.
Well, we'll be back to talk more about that on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind with Jeff Blankman, Casey Miners, and myself, John Ryan. And last week, you guys kind of focused in on basketball. And this week, we're going to talk a little wrestling and swimming as far as previewing the fall sports season, or the winter sports season, excuse me.
We're all messed
preview
up
shows. Let's talk about preview shows first of all. We got the boys and girls preview shows this week.
Yeah, the girls basketball preview show will come up tonight at 6:30 here. Casey and I wrapped up the interviews, I think, yesterday and stuff. So I'll try to run through the schools here real quick. Arweva, Carroll, Coon Rapids, Bayard, ESAC, Exira, Kimballton with Audubon. I think they had 6 girls from Audubon out this year. Then Glidden, Ralston, ICAM, Manning, Kemper, Peyton, Sheridan, and South Central Calhoun. So we'll hear from those coaches coming up tonight. If you're not able to tune in tonight, we replay the entire show Sunday morning at 10:30 here on KCIM. The boys basketball preview show will come up Thursday night here on KCIM at 6:30, and then it'll be the same coaches except for Flip Audubon is separate from Exira and the boys, so it'll just be the Audubon coach and stuff. And then if you miss Thursday night show at 6:30, we'll replay that show 8 o'clock on Saturday morning here on KCIM. So.
All right, there you go. There's the preview shows, of course. And we got a new sport for the winter.
We do. Yes, boys and
girls.
When
did this happen?
A week or two?
Yeah, a week or two.
That we found out.
We found out a week or two ago that Carroll and Kemper are adding boys and girls bowling this year. So another
as
sport.
a sanctioned sport.
Yeah, as a sanctioned sport. So another sport for us to cover in the winter. So it should be fun.
Yeah, and we're almost catching up with the spring.
Extremely busy.
Yes.
Making an extremely busy season even busier.
Yeah, I kind of said to Casey yesterday, I'm like, we're almost catching up now with the winter sports and winter teams to cover is what we have in the spring, which is the busiest time of the year. But, it's going to be fun. Did want to let everybody know as far as wrestling. I caught up with Deb Danner. We recapped the girls' swim season and stuff, and then previewed the boys' swim season, which is coming up this winter as well. You can find that interview on the podcast center on the website. We're doing that with all the wrestling coaches for both the boys and girls, and we're going to try to catch up with the bowling coaches as well to preview the season. So look on the website. We haven't forgot about those sports. Look on the website on the podcast center for those.
All right, let's talk a little wrestling. First of all, Carroll High had a breakout season last year, especially.
Yep.
They look to be, again, strong this year.
They got quite a few kids back that qualified for state. I think 3 kids back that qualified, 4 kids back that qualified for state last year, and then some other kids that just missed out that are going to be wrestling for him this year. And what a job Noggle's done.
Yep.
I would say the last 4 or 5 years with that program, they've just seemed to be on the incline up, and it really showed last year. I think sending
7,
about half their roster down to the state wrestling tournament to qualify, and they've got quite a few kids back that are really going to help them this year.
Yeah, and we look at, Casey and I put together kind of a top 5 teams for this year to kind of watch. And again, this is just based off of what we know is potentially coming back. Until we talk to the coaches for sure. We won't know.
Are these in any order,
no,
or they're ranked?
Not ranked in anything. The same thing with the wrestlers that we're going to mention here in a moment. But the Carroll boys, we love the depth that they have and the guys that they have coming back. The Carroll girls also have a nice amount of girls coming back that made state last year and some really good depth. Coon Rapids Baird boys were young last year. I think they're going to take a big step forward this year. Kemper boys have got some really good, strong wrestlers coming back. They've taken some hits potentially. We know of one injury where the young man's not going to be able to wrestle this year, and then hurt another guy that would have been one of their better wrestlers, potentially not going to be going out this year, but I think they're still going to be really strong. And then the South Central Calhoun girls, we thought they had some pretty nice depth a year ago, and they should be a pretty strong team and maybe take a step forward coming up this year.
So teams to watch coming up for the upcoming season. And how about individual wrestlers?
Start with you with the boys.
Yeah, we'll start with the boys. So again, these are in no particular order. We listed our top, what we thought were potentially the 10 guys to really watch out for. Like if you wanted to go out and watch a wrestling match, go watch this guy because we think he could have a good season. Lane Elmquist, a state qualifier for Audubon last year. We listed Caleb Huffman from Kemper, who was also a state qualifier last year, a 2-time state qualifier, qualified as a freshman and a sophomore, I think only a junior now. And Colby Pierce last year was a state qualifier for Kemper. Keep going down the list. Tyler Moore of Coon Rapids Baird, Ethan Bauer of Coon Rapids Baird, Johnny Cortez of Coon Rapids Baird, and then going to round out the list with 4 Carroll guys, Justin Aviles, Kieran Poking, Quentin Poking, and Owen Clucky. Owen Clucky and the 2 Poking boys were also state qualifiers last year for Carroll, and I think me and Jeff both agree that Justin could have a really big year with how dominant he was on the football field. Wrestling at heavyweights, I think, is going to help him out a lot.
I think he was coming on strong at the end of last year, and then you look at the great football season he has. I think he's just going to take that momentum and really move forward. You mentioned the Coon kids, Johnny Cortez, a 2-time all rewind wrestler going into his junior season. So a really nice, strong group. Over on the girls' side of things, Courtney King from South Central Calhoun had a terrific season a year ago. Emery Kramer, just a freshman. Evelyn was her older sister. She's wrestling now up at BV. And everything I hear is Emery's really, really, really good and has had a lot of success at the youth level. So we're kind of interested in seeing what she's going to do as a freshman this year. Mia Heffley was an all rewind girl a year ago for the South Central Calhoun Titans. Sadie Smith, state qualifier last year from Kemper, going to probably be the focal point and the leader of a team that I think's got some other good quality wrestlers coming back with some good experience from last year. Olivia Mack made the state tournament as a freshman, just missed out a year ago, but has been a 2-time rewind wrestler for East Sac County, and I think that we're going to see some big things from her. And then you've got a couple of Carroll girls, and Brianna Kiger had a terrific year. We were just kind of glancing back at her season a year ago, Casey, and she really kind of jumped off the board at us a little bit.
Yeah, and I think so too. And because when we went through each list and went through the roster and was like, okay, well, trying to go off memory, and then I think a lot of, like, when we went back and actually looked at records, I think Kiger really jumped out to us, and it was a girl that didn't qualify for state but had, was probably good enough to qualify for state.
Yep.
and didn't just missed out.
Emma Daniels, also from the Carroll Tigers, a state qualifier a year ago. Emma Grossman, another state qualifier for the Carroll girls a year ago, so look out for those two. And then a couple of Audubon girls. Laura McCarville had some health issues a year ago late in the season, was down there for their media day here last week, and sounds like those issues are over. I think she might have been a state qualifier, or at least contended really hard to be a state qualifier a year ago if healthy, so I look for her to push to maybe make state. And then a young lady that we're really excited. We've got 2 freshmen on here that we haven't even seen wrestle yet, but Macy Rasmussen, understand, has won a ton. Five.
Well, they said 5 straight AAU titles.
Youth titles. So
that's coming
the last
in with
2
some
years
hype.
is what their coach was saying. So.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see what she does out on the mat and the skills that she's been able to to kind of work here over the last few years and gain. So they're really, really high on her down at Audubon. So
how's the numbers? Are they on their way up for the girls wrestling?
Yeah, I think so. Audubon's gained quite a few. ESACs.
I don't think they've jumped as much this year as they did last year.
Right. Yes.
But I mean, I think numbers for almost everybody are still on the incline.
Right.
And not dropping or anything like that.
Yeah. Kemper's, I think, a little bigger team this year for the girls. Carroll High's about the same.
Yeah, I would say Carroll's about the same.
Yeah, and stuff. So South Central's got good numbers. So yeah, if you look at it, wrestling numbers especially for the girls continue to go up. And you look at what Audubon had junior high. We were down there for media day, and the junior high kids were getting their pictures taken at 22?
Yeah, something like
22
that.
girls out between 7th and 8th grade for girls wrestling. So
that's got to be one of the biggest participation sports.
It is
that they have all year,
and I get
outside of maybe track.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody the other day, and I said, girls wrestling's the fastest growing sport. It surpassed volleyball, and they're like, well, it's new. It's going to be fast growing because a lot of kids didn't go out those first couple of years, and now they're trying to figure it out. So I understand where they're coming from with that comment, but at the same time, you are seeing a lot of buy-in to girls wanting to give this an opportunity. And I will say this, it's probably going to make some people mad. A lot of people say that kids aren't going out for basketball because they don't want to work hard, they don't want to run, they don't want to bump in and rub up against girls. Well, I tell you what, wrestling's not easy, so they're going to be running and in great shape. They're going to be rolling around on the mat, touching other girls. It's those arguments of why girls aren't going out for basketball is fading because of the numbers of girls that are willing to give wrestling a chance. And I say that as a basketball guy. I love that sport as much as anything, but we've got to figure something out. There's just Sibley O'Sheeden, second year in a row, they're not fielding the girls basketball team after going to state and having 3 straight years of 17 or more wins. They're not having a girls basketball team for a second straight year. We're having a lot of issues with basketball getting numbers, and something's got to be figured out.
Now, and back to wrestling, are we going to see, along with the numbers going up, just the quality get even raised and raised more and more?
Absolutely. As the girls get more experience doing it, as you get younger girls coming in that have been on the AAU tour and everything else, I think you're going to see the quality of girls wrestling absolutely improve.
How about the boys' side of things? What are you hearing from the coaches this year? Is there any kind of common themes? Are participation numbers, quality of wrestling? I don't know. What are you hearing?
I think we're going to have good quality of wrestling in the area. I think a lot of kids that qualified for state last year are back and should be improved just across the board from all the schools so far this year. I think, as we mentioned, Carroll's got, probably the cream of the crop, I think, right now going into the season. Just with 4 state qualifiers coming back from a season ago, and I think that there's always going to be kids that are going to surprise you and have better seasons than what I think even the coaches expected and could, qualify. There's always going to be that senior that makes a push to go to state as well. So I think that wrestling in the area for boys wise has been on the incline for quite the last probably 4 or 5 years, and it's might be hitting a peak here the next couple of years. Because
I remember sitting here saying, boy, the weight classes are just not filling up. Right. You might go into a meet with 5 wrestlers in those classes. So, that's good to see a lot of those classes maybe filling up, those weight classes.
Yeah, I think coaches are doing a nice job, and I'm going to call it recruiting, not like they're recruiting from other schools, but they're getting into the hallways and finding kids and saying, give this a chance, and the kids are going out and liking it and sticking around, which is certainly helping it. So we also want to, run through the boys swimmers here real quick. Legan Cease was outstanding a year ago, just a junior now for the Carroll boys swim team, and he's going to, I think, have another fantastic year. Tegan Renzi had a terrific year as well. What did you look yesterday?
Finished in the top 10 in the 100 free and the 100 back, if I believe correctly, when we looked back at last year, and was only a sophomore. So, you're going to have 2 juniors really leading that Carroll swim team this year.
Yep, absolutely. And then Weston Toft, a guy from Arweva that swims for him that was a little banged up at times last year, but I think going to provide some really good depth, especially in the relays for them. So those are the 3 boys swimmers that here early in the season we think that you might want to keep your ears open for.
What's the numbers on swimming this year? The girls were really down this year.
Yeah, they were. Boys' numbers are about where they normally are and stuff. So in that 10 to 15 range. I know I talked to Deb the other day, and now I can't remember exactly what the numbers are. I think they were 11 or 12 or something like that. But when you're going to media days and you're getting numbers thrown at you every day of how many kids are out for each of the different sports, it's hard to remember one from another.
Yeah,
for
I can understand that when you see 20, 30 different teams now, and then let's now throw bowling in on top of that. So bowling again is going to start this year. They're going to compete on Friday nights.
They are.
Is that the one night they're going to compete?
No, they're going to have meets throughout the week. But that was the one that jumped off the board at me. I honestly thought before looking at the schedule you'd see like some Saturday tournament type things or whatever, kind of like you do with some of the other sports and everything. But a lot of their there's not hardly any Friday nights before Christmas where we're not going to have the bowling teams in action.
I think that bowling's kind of a newer sport to the state of Iowa. I think they've had it for a while, but it's starting to.
Is it going to take conferences? Is it still sticking with the same conferences that teams are normally in?
I don't know.
It is, but not every school in the conference has a bowling team. So if you're in the Raccoon River, if you're Carroll or the Hawkeye 10, if you're Kemper, you'll still bowl in that conference, but you might only have 2 or 3 other programs in your conference that offer that sport. So
all right, so it should be interesting. We're going to figure our way around through that too, trying to get interviews and all that stuff with the coaches. And so, that is going to be a jam-packed winter season. Good luck to you guys. Well, you'll sleep in summer?
Yeah, maybe.
in between
you're going to roll right into the spring season, and that's just as crazy as everything. So, all right, that is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week.